Greetings, my friend. And here we are, the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time, September the 19th. And I look out my window today, and it seems like a pretty good day. Sunshine, and everything is so green. It's phenomenal. Now today I'm going to add a little twist to what I've done for the last 2 weeks. If you remember, and I'm sure you do, yeah, right, and I'm from Missouri. Okay, but the thing is, I asked the question, not who is God, because that's been answered by most people seeing a person. And that's not surprising, because who are you? Who are you? Those are questions we ask all the time. However, how about asking a question, instead of who is God, ask what is God? Now for me, and I only speak for myself, well, I'm not entirely. I've been reading about physics, quantum mechanics, for a long time now to try to get a handle, because I know that we have to combine science with religion, science with faith, science with our spirituality. There has to be, and there is, people are doing this. Many spiritual writers that we have, like Richard Rohr and Ilya Delio, and many others are writing about this. And they are onto something, and I think it's a shame if we don't pay attention to it. It's a learning curve. It's evolution at its best. And so we need to profit by knowing about it, and then we may want to internalize it. But if we do, I can tell you that you will see life different. Your worldview will change immensely. I think one of the big things it's done for me is I've gone from a small God to a really big God. That's the biggest difference it's made for me, to go from a small God to a really big God that's so much bigger. And I think that has really touched my heart and my energy for living. And so it kind of has a personal investment. When I asked a question this morning, we asked, what is God? Now, after 2 weeks, I got another question. What are we? What are we? Now, we know that in the letter to the Corinthians, the new Christians have been coming there and living there, and the people were impressed. And so they went and looked at them and said, like, what are you people? What are you? You seem awful strange to us. Your behaviors, your conduct, your lifestyle, it's quite different than ours, and we're very impressed, but what are you? And their answer was very simple. What we are is Christians. What we are is Christians. That was the answer to their what. Now we're 2,000 years later, and I think we should have a more expansive answer, if you will. A more expansive answer to the question of what are we? And I think in the gospel today it says, whoever wants to be first amongst you must be last of all and servant of all. So there's what Mark's gospel telling us. We are last. In other words, we're not all that important. We're not as important as we think we are. We're not as popular as the grapevine would tell us, or that we think the grapevine is saying about us, that we're really, really smart and intelligent and all the rest of it. and servant of all. Ooh, now there's something to crack a wall on. Servant of all. And that's what's in the gospel. What are you? We're humble. What are we? We're servants. And that certainly goes against the age in which we live, which is, how much money can I make if I do that? That's a little different, eh? Servanthood has kind of gone out the window in great part by a large segment of our population. So when we said, what is God? Just to review, we said there is the cosmos. There is the universe, probably multiverses. And there is the universe. And there's planet Earth here. But scientists tell us it's all an energy field. All wave and particle. Wave and particle. It's energy. And we've seen some big energies this year. We've seen the energy of COVID. Powerful energy of COVID. And the consequence of that energy flowing around the earth. In most of the countries of the world, that energy is flowing, and it is something very difficult to deal with, and many governments have failed very obviously in their plans to control it. So, but that's an energy. Energy takes many different sizes, shapes, strength, power, all the rest of it. And there's good energy, and since we're a judgmental species, there is bad energy. Well, no energy is good or bad. It just is. It just is. I often use the term, que sera, sera. That life has its own agenda. You know, I often hear people on TV make promises and then say to young people, you can be anything you want to be. Well, that's what we call the illusions of youth. You can't be everything you want to be because life has its agenda. And we are life being lived. We are life being lived. And as a result of that, we may have some choices, but many choices we don't have. And it'll be in front of us, and we decide yes or no. And to be angry at the choice, to be at peace at the choice. Who knows? So anyway, I think we have to say that it's energy. And John's Gospel specifies it. It's the energy of love, being, loving. Love as a noun is no good. Loving is the verb. It means the power. Like when the woman touched the hem of Jesus' garments and was healed. And Jesus said, who touched me? Well, she said, how'd you know? And Jesus said, power went out from me. In other words, energy was drained from him to restore her to health. And I think I can honestly say that myself. Many years ago when I was in the healing ministry, I knew I had lots of energy, and how that energy would, when there was a laying on of hands and prayer, that energy was flowing. You could feel the energy flowing because I had lots of energy. But now at 90 years old, I don't have that energy. And so when I pray for somebody, with somebody, I don't feel that rush of energy because it's not within me anymore. It's not there. So it's very much energy. And the name of energy is love. And Jesus certainly captured that. by his own. How often we read, moved with compassion, which is a word for love. Jesus acted. And he gave us, he said, there's only a couple things Jesus wants us to do. Love one another as I have loved you. By this will all people know you are my disciples, by the quality of your love. It's better to give than receive. So you can really see that even Jesus, even though he doesn't have our language, understood the notion of energy, the flow of energy. And that's what God is. And as a result of that, it helps us to move away from the narrow thinking, the small God. The small God. It's the big God, the God of the earth, the God of the universe, the God of the cosmos, the immensity of God beyond the beyond the beyond. And unfortunately, over the years, reductionism has come and given us a small God, a very small God. But that's simply not it. And when we ask, what is God? And then we see the debates that people has. For example, do we call God he or she? Well, I think the first thing I would say is that energy is neither one. It's energy. You can't say the wind is male or female. It's the wind. So energy is energy. So on the one hand, it's very neutral. But on the other hand, the 8 billion people on planet Earth, half of them are women, or feminine, women. So you can say, well, God, the energy of God in them is feminine, no question about it, and can be called mother energy. Half the 8 billion people are male, men. And so we can say, yeah, for them, God can be male. So as long as we understand it, but it's the reductionism that has taken all of that away from us, and the small and narrow God. So what I want to say today is, it's the God of all. What God is, the God of all. And that includes all of creation. For a long time, our small God told people that the loving people, God loved people. And when God tells you to love, he's telling you to love people. Wrong, wrong, wrong. What God is telling us is that all of creation is love. All of creation is organic. We're interrelated and interconnected. And so, it's that we're all a part of one whole. W-H-O-L-E. We're one. And that's why it's so interconnected. The complexity of creation. And when I'm on my little walkway out here and I see ants, I see God. When I see the beautiful cardinal, now he's not a man, he's a bird, but he's really beautiful, and he comes and sits on the rail outside my house. I see God. I've got that beautiful birch tree. I see God. I see the butterfly. I see God. I see Little Lake. I see God. I see the Tonawee River. I see God. Everything is God. And as I pointed out to you last week, Sally McFay, a Presbyterian theologian at the University of British Columbia, wrote her book, The Body of God. All of creation, and that's the metaphor she used, the body of God. And that was her way of getting at it. And even I've been reading her book now for 25 years, and I still don't get it. But I get little bits of it. And I can't get over the fact that she had a mind that could see this. And her God is a big God. A big God. It did not suffer reductionism, but rather expansion. Expansion. And she was able to write that powerful book. So I think this is what I want to put before you today, is a strong reminder of God and oneness. I think when so much of the narrow, small God has divided people up. Who do we really love? Well, who does God love? What does God love? Well, God loves all living creatures, including Mother Earth. Mother Earth is alive. Sure, it's not like a human life, but Mother Earth is alive, breathing, birthing, feeding. And at the end of life, she opens up and says, come on, you can lie within my heart for eternity. Okay, so this is a big God, immense God. And we have to see that, because if we don't, then what is God to us? If it's not everything, then you got your small God. If we're able to see that all of creation is organic, interconnected, interrelated, and we're always influencing each other. Always. Jesus said even giving a glass of water to somebody who's thirsty is a positive energy thing. And in that exchange of energy, how many people have a pet? I see them walking their dogs out here on the park. Walking the dogs. There's a powerful, powerful love relationship. The spirit in the dog loves their master, and their master owns the dog. But more than that, it's the love between them, and that's God. When two people love each other, that love is God, loving each other. When we love the stranger, there's an exchange of God. When we love people who are not like us, that love flows like a river, and it is God. I think, for example, of the racism that's about. And when people are racist, if at best they've got a small God, if they got God at all. Where there is discrimination, people are operating out of a small God or no God at all. Where there are promotions of injustice, same thing, small God or no God. And so I think particularly with people, sure, we love straight people, heterosexuals, because they are fit in with the picture, the image of white privilege. But how about the gay and lesbian people? Even the church herself said they're intrinsically disordered. Oh my God, can you imagine laying that label on the children of God? That's an insult. And I think of the queers, as they call themselves, the trans. They're here, and honest to God, I don't understand it, except to know that when I had a small God. There were times, yes, there were times I'd have to confess, when I was judgmental. But once you get a big God, you're no longer judgmental. You are embracing. You are embracing all living creatures, all living plants and rivers and lakes and everybody with love. And that's God flowing through you as love. But you can't do that if you got a small God. It won't work. We have to have a big God that's ever expanding, ever expanding. And I think that's why when I considered today's homily, I found myself going back to the Corinthians who asked the early Christians, what are you? What are you really? You're different. You see life different than us. You're behaving different than us. You're acting different than us. What in heaven's name is it all about? What are you? And I can see the Christians just scratching their heads and say, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do? Jesus Christ, what's a good name for us? And they puzzle and throw about a bunch of names. Finally, some wise woman puts her hand up and says, I know, let's call ourselves Christians. That's what we are. That's what we are. We are Christians. Yeah. So the what was answered for them 2,000 years ago. What's your answer today? And I think the last thing I want to say is that speak as the we. None of this individualism. It's got to be community. It's got to be a community voice. And you have every right to speak the community voice. What are we? And I'm looking forward to hearing the answers to this on Sunday morning. So in the meantime, God bless. Enjoy the weekend.